Charleston, South Carolina is situated in the southeastern portion of the U.S. It's the oldest and largest city in South Carolina and steeped in history, a thriving Atlantic coastal town founded in 1670 as Charlestown to honor King Charles II of England. The present name, Charleston, was adopted in 1783, known for historical architecture and landmarks that include the Pineapple Fountain, Rainbow Row, Straw Market, Fort Moultrie, Charleston Tea Plantation, and more. To feel the full essence of Charleston, we opted for a bed and breakfast versus our hotel normal stays. We chose Waterway B&B in West Ashley, a short commute to the downtown area that overlooked the Stono River. I'll put a link in the comments if you desire more information. We'll start with a tour of Waterway that will become our home base during our stay. A well-maintained property, our hosts were warm and welcoming, quickly making us feel immediately at home. The bedroom was very roomy, large balcony, pool, and so much more. A full hot breakfast, expertly prepared by our hosts, which we took full advantage of each morning before exploring Charleston. Location was very private and quiet and perfect for our stay. After checking in at the B&B, we headed out for dinner at California Dreaming, a local favorite it seems, and recommended by some friends of ours. American food with ties to the local culinary delights like she crab, shrimp and grits, and much more. We found the location perfect for boat watching, and prices were very reasonable for the location. After dinner, we headed back to the B&B for a relaxing evening. The property was a perfect inn, relaxing around the pool, then off to bed for tomorrow we head out to tour downtown Charleston. We start out our morning with a drone view over the B&B where we're staying. Here we see the Stono River, a tidal channel that is noted for the Stono Rebellion, which started in 1739 by slaves from West Africa. With the Stono River in the foreground, the B&B to the left, we see the Wapo Creek dead ahead, and Charleston well in the distance. We cross the Ashley River into Charleston and head towards the French Quarter area. There are over 1,400 historically significant buildings within Charleston Old and Historic District. We'll see a handful of those today. St. Michael's Church, standing tall on the far right corner, was built in the 1760s with its massive steeple has a cedar pew where George Washington sat in 1791. On our left we see Charleston City Hall, built somewhere between 1800 and 1804. It began serving the City Hall in 1818 and is the second oldest in the U.S. behind New York City. Turning left onto Church Street, we see the South State Bank. They don't build them like this anymore. Directly ahead is St. Philip's Church, a congregation that started in 1680. A few blocks away was moved to this location in 1723. In its churchyard are buried leading patriots who signed the Declaration of Independence and U.S. Constitution, among other notable residents. The circular church, founded by Charleston original settlers around 1681, the graveyard is the city's oldest burial grounds with monuments dating from 1695. Here we see the pink beloved landmark of Charleston is the Mills House Hotel. Built in 1853, it has withstood Charleston's Great Fire, destruction of the Civil War, and President Roosevelt once stayed in this fine establishment. On the opposite side is Chalmers Street, one of 5 remaining cobblestone roads within the city. Local colonists used these ballast stones to improve upon the dirt-lined paths, which was a huge upgrade back then. To our left is the South Carolina Historical Society as we enter into the ground of Washington Square, a very quiet setting with Spanish moss hanging from the trees, and in the center is a granite 42-foot miniature version of the Washington Monument we find in D.C. On East Bay Street is Rainbow Row, consisting of 13 pastel painted Georgian-style row houses from 1748 through 1845. While each of these are privately owned, there are city ordinances to keep the pastel colors intact. Pineapple Fountain here in Waterfront Park recalls a city history when pineapples were rare and a symbol of wealth. Also represented restoration and hope as it was erected in the aftermath of Hurricane Hugo in 1990. During a time when Charleston was one of the country's busiest ports, construction of this U.S. Custom House was started in the mid-1800s and completed in 1879. Next, we trade our walking tour and we catch a ride on a horse-drawn ride throughout some parts of the historic district. We chose Palmetto Carriage Works, one of the first carriage works started in 1971 for our tour. Pulled by draft horses once used on Amish farms in Ohio and Pennsylvania and other areas, now enjoy a slower pace in retirement. Seeing so many restaurants, I've heard it said if you didn't have a great meal while in Charleston, it was your own fault. There's certainly plenty to choose from. Here, Philadelphia Alley, known as Duelers Alley, though there's no records of actual duels occurring, is more of a footpath. Also, Darius Rucker singer-songwriter was born in Charleston. Watch his music video, Come Back Song, and you'll see this alley and other areas around Charleston. On the left is Wagner Trot Building, built in 1812. It saw damage from the Union Army, and evidence from the earthquake of 1886 can be seen with the iron rod tie bars to stabilize the building with black round ornate caps on the exterior walls. We again see the Pink Mills House Hotel from a different perspective at the intersection of Meeting and Queen Street. Hoogan's Porch, a Southern cuisine restaurant we vowed to try but never made it. It's named after the neighborhood dog who frequented the area and laid claim to the porch on many occasions. A portrait of him is on display. Next door is Husk, another Southern restaurant. The building that once housed Telus Pharmacy was originally built in 1887 after the Great Earthquake destroyed some 2,000 buildings across the South. This Queen Anne-style building is beautiful down to the elaborate trim work. Berlin's, a fine store founded in 1883 by Henry Berlinski, handed down through the family that spans 4 generations and today run by Stephen A. Lang Berlin. I wondered how the streets stayed so clean of horse manure. Turns out there's an app the carriage companies use to mark the offense. Then out comes the city cleanup crew. I guess there's an app just about everything. I'll call this one TAP for Tag a Pile. This home, with its dual entry staircases, sold for nearly $8 million in 2021, boasting 7 fireplaces and amenities too many to count. The Mills Bruton House, constructed in 1769, claims to be one of the best Georgian-style houses in the county. Near the street, we see a carriage step of red stone in front of the home, making it easier to mount a horse or carriage. About 150 of these remain around town. Patrick O'Donnell House, completed in 1870. Patrick had built it for his fiancée. Since it took 4 years to build, she decided to marry another and missed living in one of the most beautiful homes in Charleston. This pink gem has to be the most narrow house I've ever seen. Here on Battery Street, where the defensive seawall lies, we find several mansions. At 20 South Battery, and now a luxury boutique hotel built in 1843 as a private mansion and while facing the waterfront survived Hurricane Hugo. On the corner is 2 Meeting Street Inn, an exclusive Kiowa Island Club amenity to welcome their members. Built in 1892, remained in the original family hands until 1946 when it was transformed into a B&B. Here the Williams Mansion, boasting 24,000 square feet, 35 rooms, a stairwell that reaches to a 75-foot dome ceiling. There are tours offered of the mansion and grounds. The first Scots Presbyterian church, constructed in 1814, contains many Scottish symbols from the stained glass to wrought iron grills, is the fifth oldest church in Charleston. The Branford Horry House, a pre-Civil War colonial home, was built in the early 1750s, known for its piazza that extends over the sidewalks on all levels. The South Carolina Society Hall, built in 1804, was used as a school for females for some years. More recently, is known for elegant weddings and special events. Leaving the carriage behind, we walk over to the straw market, established in the 1790s, and not to be confused with the old slave market, as enslaved people were never sold here. In those early days, the market sold food products like beef, fish, and farm produce for social gathering. It still remains a place for selling goods. Here's a view of the outside market that runs for several city blocks. Time now for lunch, so sit back as we take a drive back through the parts of the historical district, then west across the Ashley River to the Glass Onion. Arriving at the Glass Onion is going to be now one of our favorites here, locally sourced soul food. Their braised pork belly, butter beans, and greens were delicious. Forgot to take a video because I dove right in. The next day we made our way to Sullivan's Island to visit the National Park's Fort Moultrie. About a 40-minute or less drive on Route 17, crossing over the Ashley River and Cooper River. Longer if water traffic is encountered across the Ben Sawyer Bridge. The Ben Sawyer Bridge is a swing bridge. If you've never seen one in action, they're a sight to see as they pivot the entire bridge 90 degrees to allow large boats to pass. Arriving on Sullivan's Island, we're just a few short minutes away from Fort Moultrie. This area, I'm told, gets heavily congested during peak summer months and weekends. Access to this national park is $10 as time of this video. If you frequent national parks like we do, look into the America the Beautiful annual and lifetime passes for some great deals. Entering the visitor center, we found that they had a nice gift shop, and on display was a smoothbore cannon from the Revolutionary War and a mural depicting the British attack in 1776. More displays and artifacts highlighting the periods from the Revolutionary War, Civil War, and both war worlds. This is a great visual showing Fort Sumter across from Fort Moultrie. Ships could not fire upon Fort Moultrie until they turned 90 degrees and headed into the harbor, making them an easy target from the fort. Sumter was later added to prevent enemy ships from gaining access to this channel. Moving into the Civil War area, from this illustration, along with a cannonball, I put my hand up there for perspective of size. The balance of the visitor center was World Wars I and II. We'll see more of this firsthand as we tour the grounds. Fort Moultrie was named after a Revolutionary War general who defeated the British fleet in 1776 during the Battle of Sullivan's Island by holding the channel and saving Charleston from invasion. General Moultrie's final resting place is near the Intercoastal Way at Fort Moultrie. The fort at that time was built out of palmetto logs which could easily absorb the cannonball attacks, and today the palmetto can be found on the state flag and the license plates. There were three designs of Fort Moultrie. Moultrie I was built in 1776 from the palmetto logs used to defend against the British. The second was a five-sided system with earth and timber, then the third had undergone many modifications. Self-guided tours explain the keynote places, starting with the beginning and end years this fort provided as a seacoast defense. As we pass through the entrance, we come into the center of the fort, and on the right are Civil War defense weapons. As this notice states, the 48-star U.S. flag flies in honor of D-Day because that's the flag that flew during World War II. Signs help guide you through the tour, and grounds were very well maintained. This command post coordinated all harbor defense during World War II and built in 1944. The view from that command post with the battery below was used from 1898 to 1939. In the distance across the harbor, we can see Fort Sumter. Battery Bingham and Battery McCorkle were batteries along the southern wall of Fort Moultrie. They formed a part of the larger program of the modernization for the defense of the Charleston harbor. These smaller, rapid-fire batteries would prevent enemy minesweepers from breaking through the harbor's mine defenses. After the Civil War, cannon modernization occurred to include these 15-inch Rodman smoothbore cannons. Jacob Stroyer, a slave pictured here, his memoirs were published in 1879 in one of the only accounts of enslaved laborers at the Confederate fortifications in Charleston. Moving into earlier times of the fort is Fort Moultrie during the War of 1812, along with their various cannons, explosive shells, and other projectile types leading up to the eve of the Civil War. Here's another beautiful view of the Charleston harbor. Leaving Fort Moultrie, we traveled back towards Charleston, then over the Ashley River Bridge built in 1926. This is one of only 4 drawbridges in South Carolina. We grabbed some dinner, then relaxed the balance of the evening at our bed and breakfast. Ready to rest up for tomorrow, we're going to go see the Charleston tea plantation and Angel Oak tree. After a delicious breakfast prepared by our wonderful host, we departed to see the Charleston tea plantation and Angel Oak. You won't want to miss either of these stops. The Charleston tea plantation, now known as the Charleston Tea Garden, grows, harvests, and processes tea leaves for the Bigelow Tea Company. Today it is the only tea garden in the U.S., and free samples are worth a visit. Arriving now at the visitor center that houses both factory and gift shop, we make our way first to the trolley tour. Trolley tours are about $18 each, felt a little pricey, but the experience was great. During their peak season, use the online reservation system. However, we were able to buy at the factory. Foot track was very light the day we came. This machine, called the Green Giant harvesting equipment, is a cross between a cotton picker and tobacco harvester to gently harvest the leaves by cutting off the top layer from the bushes, then quickly transported back to the on-site factory for processing. Let's climb aboard and see some tea leaves. The tour lasts about 30 to 40 minutes, is narrated along the way, and as we pass the first of 17 fields and bushes, we see they have some separation to permit the Green Giant to harvest the tops of the freshly grown tea leaves. This greenhouse is where the tea leaves are propagated using cuttings from existing plants in order to prepare to add new fields versus growing from seeds, making for a more consistent tea. It's climate controlled until they grow enough to survive on their own in the elements. Enjoying a quick photo in front of the wedding tree, where many wedding photos have been taken over the years. More tea bushes and a retention pond for reserve water in case Mother Nature is not cooperating. Here's a close look at fresh tea leaves nearing time for harvesting. Leaves can be harvested up to 4 times per year. With 17 plus fields, it's easy to figure harvesting is a weekly occurrence on the plantation. The first harvest is known as the first flush, taking place in early spring, produces a tea fresh floral and fruity taste. Second harvests in the summer are darker, spicier highlights in nutrients and flavor. Then the final in the fall produces the mild teas. Plenty of free teas, so we tried all flavors, hot and cold. Ice cold sweet teas was my favorite. The factory tour is self-guided and starts in the back of the gift shop about every 15 minutes. This is America's only tea factory. Production had stopped earlier, but we'll still learn some interesting facts about how tea is made. There are several steps to creating tea. After plucking or harvesting leaves, they enter here for withering that affects the quality of the tea. Air is moved around the leaves for 12 to 24 hours until the desired moisture is reached. Next is bruising to roll, twist, and crush the leaves to break down the cells. The most interesting fact I learned was that all teas come from the same leaf. The amount of oxidation determines the many types of teas. Next is fixing and drying is the last stop to stop the oxidation or fix the tea leaf and remove any residual moisture to preserve the tea. Leaving the plantation with so much knowledge about how our teas are made makes me enjoy a cup even more. Now on to Angel Oak Tree. This was a must-stop for us. A short 10-minute trip or so from the tea plantation, the entry is on St. John's Island and is next to St. John's Church. It is easy to miss, so be alert. Traffic was light but can be high at times, and parking is very limited, so plan accordingly. The drive-in in the woods with the tree canopy was absolutely beautiful. Here's the entrance, though we opted to park further down on the left for easy exit afterwards. I would highly recommend backing in to park in this tight passage. We passed by the gift shop and visitor center before entering the grounds, and no fee is required. Here's our first glimpse of Angel Oak. It's massive. More than 400 years old, has a trunk circumference of 25 feet. The branches spread over 150 feet, and the entire tree is more than 65 feet tall. It is thought to be the oldest living tree east of the Mississippi. Live oaks, known to only grow outward, this one tops 65 feet due to the long protected history. We head back to the B&B to prepare for one last place to visit. All dressed up, we're headed out for an anniversary dinner to downtown Charleston to dine at Anson's near the straw market. The building was built in the late 1800s and was originally an ice manufacturing plant situated next door to the Germania Brewing Company during that period. An upscale restaurant with southern cuisine, an opportunity for one more great meal before we left. With 2 floors, we opted for upstairs for a more quiet atmosphere. I tried the whole crispy grouper, which was so good. Afterwards, a quick walk and drive around town. Then one last trip down another cobblestone road. These cobblestone roads thought to be smooth back in the day, but today a bit of a spirited drive. More shops and restaurants down King Street, passing Berlin's one last time. Another beautiful sunset greets us on our last evening here, but we have one final stop. We drop in at the old-fashioned cafe and ice cream shop. Was it good? Absolutely. There is no bad ice cream. We arrive at the B&B to take in the remainder of the evening. I'll leave links to our stay, our hosts were the best, and we parted as new friends. We hope you enjoy traveling with us. Charleston is a great place to visit, steeped in lots of American history. Food is some of the best in the region with southern hospitality, and we hope to see you in our next adventures.